Welcome to the Coin Stories podcast, where we get to explore the future of money, business, technology, and Bitcoin's revolutionary promise to boost economic prosperity around the world and mend our broken financial system. I'm Natalie Brunell, and I'm here to learn with you. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. None of the discussions should constitute as official investment advice, and you should always do your own research. Please make sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss out on any new episodes. This podcast is made possible through partnerships with companies I trust, and I'm very picky about who I choose to partner with, so I hope you take the time to listen to the ad reads throughout the show. Thanks for joining me, and if you like this type of content and want to see more of it, make sure to hit that like button. All right, it's time for the show. Welcome back, everyone. A couple of weeks ago, I put out a tweet and I asked for Bitcoiners from around the world to get in touch with me if they want to share their Bitcoin story. I just want to hear from other people about how they got into Bitcoin, why they believe in it, maybe their struggles with fiat. And I got a lot of responses, and I'm really excited to share these stories, starting with Marc Mantini, who is living on Bitcoin Island in the Philippines, has a fascinating backstory. So Marc, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, Natalie. Thanks so much for having me. It's great chatting with you. And I'm glad we were able to connect and happy to be here and share my story today.
Okay, so Marc, you're originally from Canada. You learned about Bitcoin in 2016. So just tell me a little bit about your backstory and how you actually heard about Bitcoin.
Yeah, for sure. So like most people, I actually heard about it prior to sort of jumping in, right? So it came across my path maybe in 2014. And I kind of dismissed it, just, busy with life. So I didn't really think too much into it. And then in 2016, my wife, her and her siblings are all sort of computer engineers background, software engineers, network engineers. And it was her brother in Australia who actually told us about this new technology where we can sort of send money back home to the Philippines and Australia, where some of her other siblings live, at cheaper, faster rates. So at that point right there, I mean, that sold me. At that point, I didn't know anything about the network, difficulty adjustments, halving cycles. I didn't know anything about the underlying technology. We just knew we could send it home quicker, faster, instant than Western Union and other remittances that the Philippines typically uses. So once we found out that, I was pretty much sold at that point. So.
Yeah, I mean, millions of people around the world, they're sending money back home to their families and they're spending. I was surprised by how high the fees are with companies like Western Union. So for you, it was like this solves an immediate problem.
Exactly. It was a no-brainer, really, right? So once we found out that, that was it. And then it took me another maybe year or so before I really started going down the rabbit hole and understanding the whole underlying technology and everything that comes with it. But at that time, we were just like, we can get it there instant. Mom didn't have to take a bus to go get it. They didn't, take their 15%, didn't take 3 days. So like I said, we were all in just with that alone. And then once we started digging deeper into it, then we just fell down the hole. And then, so it's been almost 7-8 years now. So.
Wow. Well, so how did you learn about it? Because I think that there is this wide chasm between when you first hear about it, you're skeptical, you maybe dip your toe in, and then going on a Bitcoin standard and moving to Bitcoin Island. So what was that process like for you, and how did you actually learn about it so that you have total conviction in it?
For sure. So once I started to put my mind to like learning about this new technology, obviously you start with reading the white paper, right? I think that's where you start, understand what it's about, all the underlying technology. And from there, it just started getting into sort of podcasts. Although back then it wasn't that many podcasts, I guess, but it was just as many videos I could see, YouTube videos, anything that came across our path. We were just all over it, basically, trying to gather as much information as possible. And then speaking with my wife's brother, they were just kind of helping explain sort of the technology about it from the network standpoint. And then from there, we just started stacking as much as possible. And we really haven't stopped since. And about the Bitcoin standard, yeah. So the Philippines, we're on an island called Boracay right now. And it's also known as Bitcoin Island. So in El Salvador, they have Bitcoin Beach. And in the Philippines, in this little island, it's called Bitcoin Island. And they've onboarded about 260 merchants right now on the island accepting Bitcoin. So it's pretty amazing, actually. Yeah.
What made you decide to move there from Canada? I know that you were really involved in the meetups in Toronto. You helped out with the first Canadian Bitcoin conference. So what made you leave?
Really, it's the world is changing, and if you follow anything that's happening with Canada, it's pretty much run by like a tyrant government right now. And we were personally affected with our jobs. And once that happened, I mean, I'm Generation X, so we don't trust in general a lot of things. And when that happened to us at work, that was kind of the final tipping point for us. So we went out to the trucker convoy in Ottawa back in early 2022 just to support the whole trucker movement. And it was just a great experience, Natalie. So many great people we met that we probably wouldn't have met if that didn't happen. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise, although going through it at the time, obviously, it wasn't a lot of fun. So that was the tipping point for us, right? And then once we heard about Bitcoin Island and all the things they're doing, my wife is originally from there. So we just decided to make a move. So we're just out here right now, basically on an open ticket, just exploring, having fun, contributing just from a sort of a grassroots level, trying to help out as much as we can with people who are interested in trying to help them out. So, the Philippines remits, I think the fourth largest country, that remits money back home.
Wow.
So this is just another way to basically help them do it at a cheaper, faster, more efficient rate. So we're just kind of doing our part, like I said, at the grassroots level. And yeah, we're just going to be out here and see how it goes, and plan to stay for a while and help out as much as we can.
Yeah, I actually met a woman from the Philippines here in St. Louis. She's on a work visa, and she was mentioning to me how she sends money back home and the inflation that she's experienced in her country. And I was trying to tell her about Bitcoin, but it's so hard. It's really hard to get people to understand and to trust it, since it's all digital, and a lot of people, when they look at this space from the outside, they feel like they could potentially lose their money. So there's that, initial hurdle. But I want to ask you a little bit more about the Philippines. But first, in terms of Canada and that trucker protest, I think that was a huge orange pill moment for so many people, including even a presidential candidate here that we have, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., said that that's what made him realize that we really need Bitcoin and Bitcoin freedoms need to be protected. So, I mean, were you surprised that the government today in it was 2022, I think at the time, but overreached in that way? And I know your family was personally affected. I mean, lost your jobs because of decisions that you made. Did you think that was possible in this day and age?
I didn't really think it possible, but I did. If you look at the history of our current prime minister, I mean, his father was prime minister, and it's sort of they're cut from the same cloth, right? So it's a good point you mentioned, Natalie, because there was a lot of money donated to the truckers via different methods, and the only method that wasn't confiscated was Bitcoin donations. So all the GoFundMe, all of the other avenues to help out the truckers, they got confiscated by the government, frozen bank accounts.
Yep.
I mean, Natalie, we were talking about single mothers donating $10, just to help out the truckers, getting confiscated. Meanwhile, we already
Did
know
you
what's
know
happening.
people? Did you know people who had their funds, frozen?
We did, and it's been almost a year and 7 months, 8 months now, and people are still going to court for that, and people are still trying to fight those in court, and it was really unfortunate. So, circle back to your question, was I kind of surprised in this day and age? Um, Not really, not from the current government in Canada, unfortunately. So it's just a really, really sad situation. But we're, proud to be a part of the trucker convoy supporting. We were there for 4 or 5 days. We met some great folks who we're still in touch with today. There's a couple we actually met at the Canadian Bitcoin conference here in Toronto back in June. So it's one of those, silver lining things where it's like it was really rough at the time, but looking back, it's just been a great experience, and like I said, we met people we probably wouldn't have met
Mhm.
prior to that or other than that if this didn't happen. So yeah, we're happy to support the truckers.
Yeah, and connecting on similar values. Are you willing to share why you lost your jobs, and was that part of the reason why you also wanted to move? It's time for a quick break to hear these messages from my partners. First up, Bitcoin Amsterdam. The biggest Bitcoin conference in Europe is just around the corner. The second annual event will be held October 12th and 13th and bring together speakers from around the world, including the one and only Edward Snowden, Stella Assange, Balaji, Eva Vlardingerbroek, and so many more. Get your tickets with a 10% discount using code HODL. And don't forget to get your early bird pass to Bitcoin Nashville 2024. You're going to get the best price right now. And again, use code HODL for that discount. I'll see you there. Next up, Fold. Fold is the best Bitcoin rewards debit card and shopping app in the world. You can earn Bitcoin on everything you purchase, from Amazon to groceries to your Bitcoin conference ticket, with Fold's Bitcoin cashback debit card. And you can play to win free Satoshis or even a whole Bitcoin by spinning the rewards wheel. Head to foldapp.com/Natalie and you'll get 10,000 Satoshis when you sign up for Spin or Spin Plus and spend at least $20 on the card. All right, back to the show.
Yeah, so we worked for the government, and there was mandates obviously back in 2021, early 2022, and we made personal choices that were just that personal, and we didn't feel we had to disclose anything or do anything that was against our beliefs. So once that happened, I took necessary steps to fight back against that. And here we are in Bitcoin Island now. So yeah, like
I
I
mean,
said,
that
it
makes
all worked
sense.
out.
It is
Yeah.
really interesting. I was watching a documentary the other night. It was with Milton Friedman, and he talked about how if you don't have economic freedom, you can't have personal freedom. And we see more and more those freedoms being eroded all over the world, including in the places that we consider to be the most democratic. So, what about the Philippines? What is it like there? And how did this Bitcoin island spring up? Are people literally just creating a circular economy like in El Salvador? I've been to Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador, so I'm trying to, kind of compare it to that. Are people using their Bitcoin wallets and spending locally?
Yeah, for sure. So the story of that is basically there was a gentleman. Now I'm not affiliated with this company that I'm mentioning, just supporting from the background, obviously, but not affiliated with them. So there's a young gentleman whose wife is Filipino, and he's from Seattle, I believe. And he came last year to visit his wife and his family, and he realized how hard it was, Natalie, to exchange money on the island. And so what he did is his background's a software engineer. So he created a Lightning wallet just for himself, actually, just to help navigate and
Wow.
spend money on the island because the main sort of technology that they use, foreigners are not able to access that technology because they're not from here. It was hard for him to exchange money. So he created this wallet just for himself to utilize while he was here on the island. And from there, it sort of blossomed. So he started talking to people. They started talking to local businesses. And like I said, they've onboarded about 260 merchants on the island
Wow.
now. And they
That's
actually
a
have a brick
lot.
and yeah, it is. They actually have a brick and mortar store now, sort of right at the main entrance when you get into the island. And they have folks there where you can walk in and help look for information, and they make their way around the island, like I said, trying to onboard more people. So we've been like really keeping our eye out for the Bitcoin accepted here signs that are in all the storefronts. So we've seen a bunch of them already, and I find that the ones we've spoken to, they still don't really understand it.
Mhm.
They just seen the magic work, and I think that's enough for them at this time. But I think there's still more education that needs to be done, obviously, because to them it's more just like it's just another QR code that they can kind of use and accept the money right now. So like anything else in life, Natalie, I think it's just more education that's required. But like I said, 256 merchants, 260 merchants. So they've done a fabulous job in a short period of time, actually.
Wow. No, that's amazing. And it does remind me of my visit to El Salvador, because the merchants I met there, it was no big deal. They were all using it, very, very comfortable with it. But in terms of that deeper knowledge of really saving for the future, I mean, a lot of the people that I met, they never saved. Really, they were living, what we would consider kind of paycheck to paycheck. Some of them were taking out loans even at high interest rates in order to purchase the things that they were going to sell. And so there was no concept really of planning for the future and being able to save. Plus, a lot of them see Bitcoin as very, very volatile. But can you share anything about, I mean, are the people in the Philippines and on this island, are they now thinking more about the future? Are they thinking about actually not spending all of their Bitcoin, but actually putting some away, even though the price, it does fluctuate very, very aggressively?
Yeah, great question. So similar to El Salvador, the Philippines is it's considered sort of a third world country, right? So the the lack of education is there, but actually they have a lot of people sort of they brought it actually into one of the main universities in Manila now, a Bitcoin course actually. So they're actually teaching the course in one of the main universities here, which is a big step forward. And my wife, she's told me, back in the 80s, what happened with the Philippines, how the corrupt government at that time back in the mid 80s, Natalie, I believe the Filipino peso and the US dollar was sort of even. After that, it slowly started to go away. Now I think it's to the US, I think it's like 55-1.
Mm-hmm.
So all those families who sort of were saving in fiat and cash all those years for their kids to go to school, help leave the country to send money back home and support their families, overnight it got wiped out.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's a similar sort of theme to some of these countries that are kind of ruled by these tyrants, right? Is that they just wipe the system out completely. So this new technology that's being explained is that, it's a deflationary asset. It's a digital asset. Nobody can confiscate it, as we discussed with the trucker convoy. So I think once they're trying to really drill that point home, and now that it's in the university and the classes and they're teaching that, I think that's really big. So the progression is happening. Again, you always hear about, it's kind of like the internet in the early 90s. And it's true. It's just a matter of the people getting more familiar with it, using it. And as you know, Natalie, it's really just, you ask them just to download the wallet. You send them like, a couple hundred sats or whatever, just to show them how easy it is. You explain to them that it's their money. Nobody can take it from them now.
Mm-hmm.
They can zip it anywhere in the world and kind of start with that. And they seem to be on board. So yeah, it's amazing when there's a necessity for them to learn. So no matter how difficult it is per se, they're going to learn because it almost is life and death for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when your kind of back's against the wall in that aspect, they're going to learn the technology real quick. So yeah, it's a lot of progress here.
Yeah, for sure. I've always been a big believer that if you have a pain point, a financial pain point, you're going to appreciate Bitcoin much faster. And you did with the remittances. A lot of people, for me, I think it was my backstory with the great financial crisis. If you have a reason why you haven't trusted money, or you feel like that system has taken advantage of you, you're probably going to pay attention to Bitcoin faster than others. Which is great because it's happening all over the world, because so many of us have been on the other side of that system and being taken advantage. One thing I wanted to talk to you about is orange pilling your friends, because that's what a lot of us are trying to do, sometimes more successfully than other times. What has worked for you, and where are people kind of, maybe still not understanding, and you have trouble pushing that door down?
Yeah, I get real passionate when I speak about Bitcoin. My father's Italian, so I have that sort of little spark in me to really get into it. So, like I really just start with just talking kind of about money and what money is to them, what they think it is. And like I said, they really never taught us that in school, right? There's the old adage that I think Robert Kiyosaki always talks about, which is you get a good education, go to school, get a good job, you pay taxes and you kind of die type thing, right? So that's how I kind of start with it. Then same thing, I just kind of, explain that to them, explain how it's a deflationary asset, store of value. We get into the halving cycles, not obviously in the first conversation we have with them, but then, download a wallet, send them a couple sats, explain to them like that. So, and I think, we kind of live in a privileged society, right? So as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, it's not really out of necessity for them. They can still go to a bank, open a bank account. Here in the Philippines, there's 60% of the people, Natalie, who are unbanked still.
Wow.
So, they're making like $11 a day. Some people are a day, $11 a day, So when you kind of explain to that they can keep this money and this won't get deflated, like if they keep holding fiat or cash, that's a big thing. So the back home, I wouldn't say it's a little more difficult, although I guess it really is because again, out of necessity, they haven't, as you were saying a few minutes ago, they haven't put their hand on the stove and got burned yet.
Yeah.
Right. So once you do that and it affects you directly, then you kind of pivot your mindset and say, wait a sec, something's not right. And I think that takes a little longer for folks. And it's not really a fault of their own. Like I said, we're kind of in a privileged society, in North America, where you can go to the bank and take out money, and you can open up an account, and you can get a mortgage if you want, and these type of things. So here in the Philippines, you can't do that. So we're trying. We've onboarded like dozens of folks back home onto Bitcoin and got them set up with wallets and cold storage, and explain the importance of cold storage, right? So
Right.
getting Bitcoin onto buying Bitcoin is one thing, but then immediately, as you know, we get it to cold storage right away. So we've had some success, and we're still pushing forward with that. So I'd say it's been pretty good so far.
It's time for another quick break to hear these messages from my partners. Next up, CoinKite, which offers everything you need to safely take custody of your Bitcoin. CoinKite produces the Cold Card Wallet, which is the cold storage device I use for safekeeping my Bitcoin. You can verify the source code, it's ultra secure, and it's easy to use, even if you're a beginner. Head to their website in my show notes to find all of their custody products, and you'll get a 5% discount with my link. Become your own bank with Bitcoin and CoinKite. Next up, I want to share with you about Crowd Health. Health insurance costs are sky high today, and you send your money every month to a fiat corporation only to never see that money again, even if you don't get sick. But if you do need care, you end up having to pay even more out of pocket. But luckily, there's an alternative, and it's all about community. Crowd Health brings together Bitcoiners who crowdfund each other's healthcare. So, how it works is when you need a doctor or hospital visit, Crowd Health negotiates down the medical bill lower than what insurance would be, and the community helps you cover the costs. You get to save the money you would have sent to an insurance company. And hey, why not put it into Bitcoin? To sign up, head to joincrowdhealth.com/Natalie. All right, next up, I'm excited to share that I am an advisor for the Orange Pill app. If you haven't downloaded this app yet, then you're missing out on connecting with Bitcoiners in your area. The Orange Pill app is focused on building the social layer for Bitcoin and helping create opportunities for in-person connections and community building. Come join us and use the referral link in my show notes to start connecting today.
We're still pushing forward with that. So I'd say it's been pretty good so far.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point. One of the best ways is just have someone download the wallet and send them Satoshis and talk about the fact that there was no bank in the middle, there was no third party, you didn't have to wait weeks for settlement. And there you go, you have the money. So with your
Exactly.
wife, I mean, she immigrated from the Philippines to Canada, right? So in addition to the remittance side of it, does she have her own personal story of just witnessing, maybe her family going through a fiat crisis that led her to also believe in Bitcoin when you shared it with her?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to her, she'll tell you that she orange pilled me, and that kind of is correct in a sense where she kind of brought the idea from her eldest brother,
Okay.
because as I mentioned, they're computer engineers, so they kind of understood it from a different standpoint than I did. I didn't know anything about that, right? I just know, like I said, we could send
Mhm.
it, zip it, quick it, and that's kind of the angle I come at when I talk to people. So as far as her family sort of feeling the effects of what we discussed earlier, yeah, I think for the most part the whole country did, right? So like I said before, we'd have to send it, and her mom would have to travel to one of these places to get the remittance, but it would take a few days. They take, whatever percentage of it as well. So, I mean, they're all sharp people, so it was a no brainer for all of them. It's like I don't have to leave my house and get it. I can just accept it on a wallet, convert it to pesos via a Lightning wallet or through. I mean, so to them it was just all on board, and again, they didn't necessarily have to understand all the underlying technology of this technology. They just knew, like I said, they can get it quickly, easy, safely. Nobody can take it from them. So yeah, they were all in when they heard about it.
Right. Well, it's interesting because a lot of us, you know, when people are scared about the technical components of Bitcoin, I wouldn't be able to tell you how the heck they make this thing work, right? It feels like magic in so many ways to me still. But I think a lot of people in the future will use Bitcoin, even if they don't go down to the sand like so many of us did to actually study how mining works and the difficulty adjustment and all that. Well, Marc, it's been awesome to talk to you. I'm wishing you all the best on Bitcoin Island. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience today?
Honestly, Natalie, I just want to thank you for the time today. Like I've told you kind of in the private chat while we were setting this up, I appreciate what you do. We've been a fan since we saw you, I think in uh, Miami 2021, maybe. And
Thank
that's kind of
you.
when I joined Twitter and X, I guess, was around that time. So that's when I started, following the different people in Bitcoin and whatnot. So just thanks for your time today. And yeah, just, keep stacking sats, everybody. It's still super early. I saw Michael Saylor just bought a bunch of more Bitcoin yesterday. So if you still want to get some, we better hurry up because he's going to scoop it all up right now. So just hopefully we can continue pushing the good word forward of Bitcoin, what it'll do for humanity, the type of help it can provide to a lot of people in El Salvador, the Philippines, all over the world, etc. So yeah, keep stacking sats, and thanks again for having me.
I love it. Yes, the Philippines needs Bitcoin, the world does, and we need to front run those institutions and CEOs. So thank you so much, Marc. And I'll put your X handle in the show notes, and I'm sure a lot of people will want to connect with you after this. So see you soon.
Appreciate you, Natalie. Thank you.
All right. And finally, this show is also brought to you by iTrustCapital. iTrust lets you invest in Bitcoin for your retirement with the tax benefits of an IRA. And here are some important things to know. iTrust does not lend against client assets, and the accounts are FDIC insured up to $250,000 US. So if you're doing retirement planning and thinking about adding Bitcoin to your portfolio, you can sign up at itrust.capital/nataliebrunell. Thank you so much for checking out the video version of my show. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit like on the video. And please reach out with feedback or guest suggestions. My email is natalie@talkingbitcoin.com. I'll see you next time.